Welcome back to the 10-second runoff powered by Culture Media with your hosts, Joe Mitchell, Alec Escudier, producer Magic Mike Ishiaza. Last week we talked about Clemson, Miami, Texas A&M. Got a couple more teams to talk about today. We're going to start with Notre Dame. You have anything on them?
Yeah, I mean, we hinted at it a little bit last week. They play one of the hardest schedules in football.
Yeah.
At least top-heavy wise. They play, and we were laughing last night because it's kind of nuts. They play the odds favorites to win 3 conferences. That's kind of odd, no?
Yeah, well, before we get into their schedule, I do want to get into all that and talk about, how they potentially could be a better team than they were last year.
Yeah.
Absolutely should be a better team than they were last year, but could have a worse record when you look at it, when you look at their schedule and the games they play and all that kind of stuff.
For sure.
Before we get into all that, let's just kind of touch on them and their roster and all that.
Yeah, so, obviously the biggest addition here is going to be Sam Hartman. We both love Sam Hartman.
Yeah.
We think he's great. Yeah, that offense took a huge step up for sure. As far as them being better, right, I think there's a shot. They're going to have a really good defense. The key for Sam Hartman, though, is the offensive line. That offensive line is super experienced. They probably have the best offensive lineman in the country, Joe Alt. Preseason All-American, preseason everything else award.
So.
Yeah. And so he's legit.
Yeah, and you look at this team last year. If you just started watching college football in September when week 1 started, and then you kind of tuned out 4 or 5 weeks in, you probably have the idea that Notre Dame sucked last year because they started off really poorly. But they were 1 win away from being a 10-win football team last year, and they dropped the game to Marshall, and they lost games here and there that they absolutely shouldn't have.
Right.
But they found a win over Clemson late in the year.
Yeah.
So this is a team that showed you really high highs and really low lows last year. So you bring in those guys. You put Sam Hartman behind Joe Alt, like you were saying. You let Marcus Freeman settle into his second year in Notre Dame. This could be trouble. I know they're not in a conference specifically, so it wouldn't be trouble for any conference in particular.
Right?
But given the teams they play, this is going to be a bad matchup for a lot of people.
Yeah, and their strength of schedule is so nice that They don't really need to be in a conference. They end up winning 11 games. Mm-hmm. Well, there's a conversation to be had because of their strength of schedule.
Yeah.
But no, you're right. Definitely a season ruiner potential.
Yeah, and so you said if they win 11 games, there's a conversation to be had. I assume you're talking about playoff.
Yeah.
It would depend on where the losses came or who the loss came to.
Yeah.
Look, if they win 11 games and they go 11-1, it's going to be really hard to keep them out the playoff.
Yeah, because that loss is probably at that point I'd assume be to a conference champion at that point.
Yeah.
If they were going to drop a game, it would be to a undefeated Clemson or something like that.
Well, and look, here's the thing. If they only lose one game, I imagine it would be to one of USC, Ohio State, or Clemson.
Right.
And if it's not to one of those, they're in because they have those 3 wins.
Yeah.
You see what I'm getting at? So I think you're right. If they go 11-1, they're in the college football playoffs simply because of strength of schedule.
Yeah, I agree.
Now I don't know if they'll do that, but let's get into the schedule.
Yeah. So it starts off decently, right? They get Navy, win, right? Mm-hmm. They get Tennessee State,
win.
Yeah, I'm playing. NC State, they go to NC State. I think that's easy win.
I think they win. I'm not going to call it an easy win. It's certainly a step up from Navy and Tennessee State.
For sure. And then they get Central Michigan at home. I'm sorry.
Win.
Yeah.
Okay, so they start out 4-0 with NC State being the only, decently tough game in there. There's 3 guaranteed wins. I'm gonna call the NC State game a guaranteed win, but who knows? Judging by last year, anything really can happen with this team.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, then in week 5, or their 5th game of the year at least, they play Ohio State at home.
Yeah.
I know we covered Ohio State.
Yeah,
we covered Ohio State already. You and I both took Ohio State to win that game.
Yeah.
But since we're talking Notre Dame, let's break it down again.
Yeah, so the key is the offenses. I think Notre Dame's going to have a good offense, but I don't think they can score enough points to compete with Ohio State.
Mm-hmm. I think, and you and I really liked the addition of Sam Hartman, but what we liked so much about Sam Hartman at Wake Forest was his ability to sling it. We loved the system he was in with that long delayed mesh. It allowed him to make a lot of decisions in a short amount of time and see the field in its entirety. I think at Notre Dame, you step into a much more run-heavy offense under Marcus Freeman, and it's going to require him to play a little bit of a different game.
Which I'm sure he'll adapt to.
And I still think he's a great quarterback, and if I'm Notre Dame, I'm ecstatic about having him in the backfield. But if I'm Sam Hartman, I'm thinking obviously he chose to commit there. He knew what he was getting into, but I think it's just he's going to have to adapt and he's going to have to play a little different game than he was playing at Wake Forest.
I agree. Yeah.
So I'm interested to see what we get.
Me too.
And given the matchup, I look at Ohio State's receiver room, it's better. I look at Ohio State's defense, I think it's better. Now the defenses are much closer than the offenses in my opinion.
Yeah.
But I don't necessarily see. I don't see one point of either team. I don't see one position group on Notre Dame's team where I'm like, they have Ohio State beat there.
Yeah, I mean, even at the running back. I mean, I think the offensive line is better.
The offense, yes, there's an argument for the offensive line, absolutely.
Now, granted, but I still think Ohio State has a better run game. I think that because their running back is that much better. Javion Henderson's legit. So
and Notre Dame lost Logan Diggs. Now, obviously, they have other guys, and you don't just get guys transferring out that are going to be the starters. So, but they lost depth, if nothing else.
Yeah, I have Ohio State beating them. We already covered it, but
I do too. But I will say this, and I said it in the Ohio State segment when we covered them. I think this is going to be a really, really good game. Even last year, in Marcus Freeman's first game as the head coach at Notre Dame, they lost that game 21-10, but I believe they were winning at halftime. Yeah. So, am I right about that?
I'm pretty sure.
I think it was 10-7 at half.
I think so. Look at the box score.
Maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was. I can't remember. I don't want to definitively make that statement.
It was either that game. No, because Northwestern they were up.
To Dame, Ohio State last year. It was game 1.
Box score.
Yeah, look up the box score.
Regardless, so how do you have this game going points wise? To me, it's a high scoring affair.
Really? Okay, so I think the opposite. I think the highest we'll see is 28.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Which is still 4 scores.
Right.
But what you got?
Yeah, it was 10-7 going into half.
There you go.
And who was up? Notre Dame?
Yeah, Notre Dame.
Yeah, okay. So there you go. Okay, so we both have them 4-1 after Ohio State. Then they go 2 Duke and 2 Louisville. So a two little, away game stretch here.
Yeah, I mean, I got them beating both of these teams, but these are not, crappy opponents.
No.
Right? Like, this is not something you can just all right, we're done with Ohio State. Like, let's go take these 2 games. Like, these are legit teams.
Especially following Ohio State like this. Let's see here. Yeah, so
especially coming off of a loss, at least predicted from us.
Yeah, so coming off a loss, I think there's a little bit, barring injury and all that kind of stuff, I think there's a little bit of, okay, let's get back into shape. We're not in the conference. We can't really afford to lose a bunch of games.
Right.
Let's go handle business. Coming off a win, there could be a little bit of a hangover because, Duke doesn't have top half odds to win the ACC. I think they're a good team. I really do think they're a decent team. I think coming off a win over Ohio State, obviously that is huge for their strength of schedule, strength of record, all that kind of stuff. But there could potentially be a little hangover right here in this Duke game because Ohio State, again, betting odds to win the Big Ten, and then Louisville, the week right after Duke, is 3rd in odds to win the ACC. So that's scheduled right between 2. And Louisville's not a sexy name when talking college football, at least not as of late, since Lamar Jackson really. But
and even then, they were 9-3.
But Louisville's a sneaky good team this year. Obviously, look, I'm going to take Notre Dame to beat Duke, but I think that's a game to watch, if nothing else.
Yeah.
So
and
we have
Louisville
them,
as well.
Yeah, we have them 5-1 going to Louisville. I'm going to take Notre Dame again, but I think this one's more of a coin flip than anything.
Really? Yeah, I'm going to take Notre Dame pretty convincingly.
When you say pretty convincingly,
I mean like 7-14. I'm not talking about
7-14 points. Okay,
yeah.
So I'm not too far off from you there. I think if it's closer to 14, it'll be a late score.
Yeah,
I think this game is going to be 1 possession most of the game.
I get that. I can see that too.
And then they get USC at home.
Yeah. I'm going to take USC in this one.
And really for Notre Dame, this is kind of a make or break game because it is early in the season. I know you're talking about Game 7, Game 8, somewhere in there, but it's mid-October. We're not even into the swing of November yet to close out the season. October 14th, they get USC at home. If we're right, they have at least 1 loss at this point. Make or break. You're not in a conference. You can't afford to lose 2 games and go win a conference championship. You're going to be sitting at home that week, conference championship week. You cannot afford to lose more than – you can't afford to lose this game, especially with Clemson coming up.
And a prior loss, in our opinion, to Ohio State,
Now, we've already talked about USC, and we've already broken this game down.
Yeah.
I took Notre Dame to win it.
Right.
You?
No, I got USC in this one.
Okay. You think it's just Caleb Williams? Caleb Williams is going to throw the ball all over the field?
Yeah. It's tough to keep up. Like a team like Notre Dame with that offense, like it's going to be tough to keep up with the Ohio States, with the USCs, I know they don't play Tennessee, but teams like that just score and score and score and score. Like that's not how Notre Dame wants to play ball.
Yeah.
You know,
So this is for USC. For USC, so Notre Dame has their bye week late in the year. USC has it earlier in the year. So this opens up the first of the last 6 games. So this is the first game of the back half of USC's schedule for them. They're very likely going to start out 6-0, and I think up until that point, and I've talked about it in the USC segment, they're going to look like they have a really great defense, and Notre Dame's going to expose that a little bit.
yeah.
And it's the first of a really, really brutal stretch. In those 6 games, USC's got to play Notre Dame, Washington, Oregon. Lots of just really good. Utah's in there. So that's a tough stretch for them. I think it's going to be a little bit of a rude awakening coming off the slow start in terms of opponents and matchups.
I could see that, but to me, this is I agree, but in a different way. Like for them, this is going to be their statement game. This is going to be a must-win. All right, guys, we won the 6 games we thought we won. If we beat Notre Dame right here, like, we're legit. Let's keep the momentum going, that kind of thing. And again, coming off a bye with Lincoln Riley, like, that's tough to beat.
I think Notre Dame is just going to be more I think they're going to be a more disciplined team. They're going to be more sound in the trenches than USC will.
Right.
Obviously, USC is going to have the talent advantage in the skill positions.
Right.
Of course they are. But I think when you look at the way that game plays, I think Notre Dame is going to control it. They're going to have the ball probably 8 to 10 minutes more than USC.
Right.
So if USC is going to win this game, it's going to be behind Caleb Williams, and he's going to have the best game of his season.
No, that's the guy I want to be behind.
No
right?
doubt. No
So,
doubt. You couldn't pick a better guy to be behind.
Yeah, that's the.
But I just think the way this game falls on USC's schedule, paired with the discipline of Notre Dame, Marcus Freeman settling in, an experienced senior like Sam Hartman, taking over at quarterback, I think this game just plays to Notre Dame.
You keep aiding to the fact that they're coming off a bye. Like, if I'm going to play my hardest opponent on my schedule, and this is not USC's hardest opponent.
They're not coming off a bye. I said they had the bye earlier in their season.
Okay, yeah. But yeah, I like USC. We talked about it before. Again, to me, Notre Dame doesn't want to play a high-scoring affair, and that's the ball you have. Like Clemson, for example, and we'll get there. You don't have to play a high-scoring game with Clemson. Mm-hmm. It's a different kind of football game. I'm not saying Clemson is not as good as Ohio State and USC. I'm just saying it's a different type of football that they play.
Yeah, no doubt.
Whereas with USC and Ohio State, you got to keep up, and if you can't keep up, bad things happen.
And so we're looking at this game differently because you keep saying you think it's going to be a high-scoring affair. Yeah. I don't think so.
USC,
I think the highest score we'll see in this game is somewhere between 28 and 35.
Yeah.
And the reason being is I just don't think Caleb Williams is going to have the ball in his hands much.
Right.
And so if that plays, if that turns out to be the case, I think it'd be wild to pick USC in that scenario. Now, if it does end up being a shootout, Notre Dame's not going to win a shootout with USC.
Right, exactly.
So I think just looking at I think our biggest fundamental difference in this game is the way it plays, not necessarily the winner.
Right.
Because if it plays the way I'm expecting, you would take Notre Dame.
Probably so, yeah.
And if it plays the way you were expecting, I would take USC.
Right.
But nonetheless, I do think Notre Dame wins this game.
I got you. Yeah, and I'm taking USC.
Cool. All right, then they get Pitt at home.
Yeah, I'm going to take Notre Dame in this one.
I am as well. I don't feel like we need to cover that one too much. We're getting to some better games.
Right.
Then they go to Clemson on November 4th. November 4th is a stacked Saturday. I don't know where College Game Day is going to go that day.
It ain't going there.
It very well could.
Not there. But, yeah, so I this is tough, man. I got Notre Dame beating Clemson. We had talked about it before. And, again, it's because I think it's hard to beat Notre Dame at their own game. Mm-hmm. That's the problem. It's just like USC. It's hard to beat USC at their own game. You're not – like, you'd have to score 50. Right? It's kind of the same thing with Notre Dame and Clemson. We saw it last year. I think they do it again.
I think the way the game played last year was a little bit of a I don't want to say it was a fluke because Notre Dame ended up being a good team, but I think Notre Dame really shocked everyone with how that game played.
Shocked themselves.
They shocked themselves. I think they took Clemson a little bit by surprise. I think Clemson's not going to have the luxury of overlooking Notre Dame this year.
Right.
And, looking at that defensive unit, the D-line, you bring in a guy, Cade Klubnik at quarterback, not bring in, but he's going to be the starter from day one. Will Shipley at running back. I think the offensive line, again, this is just a situation where you look at two very similar teams and one that's got more power on it.
Right.
I know you're taking Notre Dame. I think I'm going to have to take Clemson to win a close one.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely think it's going to be close. Again, this is the game that I'm not suspecting to be a high-scoring game.
Yeah.
This is the one that I'm looking at a 21-14 or a 21-17. Although last year was 35-14. You know, Clemson got beat down, like bad. And it was like, I mean, we always talk about it was really like 35-7. Like they got beat bad. I don't think it'll be that bad this year. I don't think it'll be that high scoring this year. But I could see like a 21-17 Notre Dame victory.
I also think that if Clemson has the same issues at this point in the season that they were having at that point in the season last year in terms of
that'd be a problem.
cohesion between the quarterback and the rest of the offense and understanding of the play calling situation and all that. If Clemson's in that same scenario by November 4th this year, then we're looking at Clemson a whole lot differently than we are right now.
Brother, yeah. I mean, yeah, no doubt. And we were watching it like last year at the beginning of Clemson season. They were, I mean, just in shambles.
Yeah.
They couldn't figure out what the hell to do. They ran a quarterback run like 7 times or 8 times. It might have been more than that in a row.
Against Syracuse.
Yeah, we were like, what the hell is going on?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, if that's the crap that they're doing to start the season, yeesh, I don't know.
And when
I might, yeah, definitely take Notre Dame.
And you add a guy like Garrett Riley to Clemson's offensive, room, and,
That helps.
he's going to be the one drawing up the schemes and the plays and all that. I don't know, man. I think this is just a game. I don't think it's crazy for you to think Notre Dame can go in and win this game. I think that's absolutely achievable for them. But just in terms of the matchup, I have to go Clemson.
I got you. And that's the thing, Joe. I'm just not a huge Clemson guy. We talked about that on the Clemson.
That's so
side of
weird. You
things.
were last year.
Yeah, I thought I was just a lower on DJ. I was just lower on DJ than I was on.
That's fair.
Yeah,
That's fair. Well, at this point, I have Notre Dame 8-2. They get Wake Forest at home, and then they go to Stanford.
Well. Yeah, so Wake Forest is definitely going to be an interesting one. I mean, obviously, it's Wake Forest going to Notre Dame. Sam Hartman gets to play his former team. I'm going to take Notre Dame. Sam Hartman was Wake Forest last year for a lot of it, right? A quarterback like that in the ACC usually does big things. I'm very anxious to see what Wake Forest does this year, but I'm taking Notre Dame by a decent margin.
Me too. I'm also going to take Notre Dame, and I'm going to take Notre Dame against Stanford as well.
Yeah, that's one of the worst teams in college football.
So we put them. We agree on the record. We both think they go 10-2.
10-2, yeah.
We just have a couple different losses in there. Now this is a tricky scenario. So before we got into the schedule breakdown,
right?
You said if they go 11-1, they're in the playoff, and I tend to agree with you.
Right.
Now we look at 10-2, and they only won one of those 3 games. That's the hardest matchups on their schedule. What do they look like in the playoff conversation now?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing, because they can't play for a conference championship. If you're sitting at home on conference championship weekend, you have to be a one-loss team.
And I
We saw
commend
it
them.
with Ohio State last year.
And I commend them for scheduling the way they did.
Yeah,
And
no
putting these difficult opponents on there. I mean, literally playing the betting odds to win 3 separate conferences is crazy. I know the argument about Notre Dame is always, well, they don't play anybody. They're not in a conference. They don't play a conference schedule, all that kind of stuff. While that's true, and they don't play as many, while that's true, and they don't play as many difficult games as teams that are mid-tier in their own conference will play. Playing the betting odds to win 3 separate conferences is ridiculous.
Yeah,
it's unbelievable.
I'd venture to say nobody's ever done that, because you rarely just pull from conferences like that.
Yeah.
So
I understand in years past saying Notre Dame doesn't play anybody. They have an easy schedule, this, that, and the other, blah, blah, blah. They play USC every year. And this year, that's out the window. Yeah. I don't want to hear that from anybody.
Yeah, they play a really good schedule.
Yeah. Okay, so I think they beat Ohio. I think they beat USC. I'm sorry. I think they lose to Ohio State and they lose to Clemson, but beat USC. In that scenario, I think USC is probably the second in terms. If I were to rate those if I was to power rate those 3 teams, I think USC would be 2.
Yeah.
Behind Ohio State, ahead of Clemson.
I agree.
This is really tricky, though, because the Pac-12 has the potential to just eat itself in terms of everybody's just going to beat each other up over there. At least that's what we predicted.
Yeah, but a 10-2 Pac-12 champion is going to go.
Yeah.
A one-loss ACC championship is going to go. And we also forgot about, the best 2 conferences of football. You're going to have at least one representative from the SEC. Either Ohio State or Michigan is going to go. That's your 4 teams.
Yeah.
Unless you're 11-1.
Yeah.
Unless if you're 12-0, but I think we're taking that off the table.
I think Notre Dame would be right out. They'd be right outside. I think they'd.
Yeah, that's New Year's 6.
With the graphic, the way the college football playoff committee does the graphic, they do the top 4 and then randomly show 2 that don't go.
Yeah.
They show 5 and 6. I don't understand that.
Yeah,
but I think Notre Dame would find themselves somewhere in that 5-6 range.
I agree. Yeah, I think. No, I disagree. I think you're gonna have more people that are 11-1 and don't go.
Potentially.
I think you're 7-8, and again, I think you get New Year's 6, but that's what 10-2 gets you when you're not a conference anything. When you don't play for a conference championship.
Potentially. I don't know. I think they're going to be a really, really good team. They're going to finish the season top 10, get a New Year's 6 bowl, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I commend them for scheduling the way they did, but I think there's 2 games on there that are just going to keep them out of the playoff.
Agreed. Yep.
Okay, let's go to Tennessee.
Yeah, so Lord, man, they're gonna be real good. They're real good again. That Josh Heupel's turned that team around like crazy.
Yeah, he's just coming into his 3rd year.
Yeah, and we're seeing, we're seeing a whole different team. Barring a couple like terrible losses last year, they are really just one terrible loss. They were really freaking good. Mm-hmm. You're possibly a playoff. Well, no, you're not. Well, you are possibly a playoff team if you don't drop the game to South Carolina. Because you wouldn't have played in the conference championship, but we saw it with Ohio State. Your loss is to Georgia.
And they had really big wins over Alabama and then beat the piss out of LSU.
Beat the crap out of LSU, yeah. So you probably, I would say, and of course we'll never know, have a playoff bid over Ohio State if you don't drop that game to South Carolina, especially the way they did. But yeah, man, obviously I don't think they lose anything, and this is bold, at quarterback. I think Joe Milton is everything that Hendon Hooker was. I don't think they take a huge step back there. And crazy enough, losing to Biletnikoff, I don't think you take a huge step back at receiver.
Yeah.
So
let's stay on Joe Milton for a second before you get into the receivers. So looking at that offense, Joe Milton is actually the highest rated returning player on that team or on that offense, which is tricky because I think he's going to be a really good quarterback. Yeah. At SEC Media Days, they were talking about he could throw the ball 90 some odd yards, which is, if true, unreal.
Oh, I believe it.
Unreal if true. But he doesn't have a ton of starting experience. And so with him being the highest rated player returning, that does raise a couple questions. I don't think we need to spend too many time on the questions. I think he's going to be really good.
Yeah.
I'm not questioning his ability or if he's going to be a solid quarterback. I think he's going to be.
Yeah.
But it does raise a couple questions saying that the highest rated player returning doesn't have a ton of starting experience. Which, could speak well to their quarterback room, saying that, Hendon Hooker was solid, Joe Milton's here now. There's Nico Iamaleava as well. But all I wanted to say and just put on the table is that does raise a couple questions for me.
Yeah.
In terms of highest rated players returning on the offense, he's followed by Jaylen Wright, Jabari Small, and Squirrel White. So talking back to the, running back room, the receiver room. So you can continue on that point.
Let's talk about the elephant in the room, right? You lose 2 huge prospects to the NFL draft.
Yeah.
Including a first-round pick at tackle. So, that's my questions. Jabari Small's legit. He was really good last year. He was sleepy good last year. But, you got to protect him.
Yeah.
Joe Milton can throw the ball a long way, but you got to let the receivers get down there. He needs time. I'm worried about their offensive line. So, they're younger. We'll see that obviously play out. That would be my huge glaring, I'm not going to say problem, but biggest problem on the offense. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, there's no shortage of weapons. There's no shortage of, a big play ability. But you gotta have an offensive line to make it happen.
Yeah.
So, we'll see.
Now, the weakest part of Tennessee's team last year was the defense.
For sure.
They were 11th in the SEC in total defense, which is, you can't be in the conversation for the playoff and have the 11th overall or 11th in total defense in the SEC.
They were.
Yeah, but the problem is if they weren't 11th, they would have been a lock for the playoffs.
Yeah.
That's what I'm getting at.
Oh yeah, that game pretty much brought them to 11th because they gave up 63.
They gave up 63, but also their defense wasn't great all year.
No, yeah, I'm with you.
It got better for a quick stint towards the end of the year.
They were giving up 6 points. They were giving up 14, and then.
Yeah. No, they were great in turnovers, but there needs to be a step up defensively for them to really be in the college football playoff conversation.
Agreed.
To push Georgia, potentially, make an argument for the East.
Yeah.
There just needs to be a step up defensively. And they return a couple really big pieces.
Yeah.
Aaron Beasley is going to be an inside linebacker. He had a good year last year. I think he's going to get more. He's for sure going to get more meaningful play time this year. I think he's going to be a staple in that defense.
Yeah.
I think he's going to be somebody that can help take them to that next level, as well as Jaylen McCullough. He's another fifth year guy. He was the second leading tackler on that defense last year and missed 2 games.
Right.
So him being back in the mix, and, hopefully healthy all season, I think those 2 guys just to really, staples of your defense, I think that's huge for them.
Yeah. I think it's tough because it's a team that's kind of built at least that way, like USC. It's tough for a team like USC that can score a bunch of points and still lose. That's how it is with Tennessee. Tennessee's giving up 63 points, but they're scoring 42. Well, you still lose that game. You don't get any points for scoring 42 points.
Yeah.
In the win-loss column, that is. So I'm with you. I don't know that their defense got any better, but I do know. I mean, it sounds crappy, but it was hard to get worse. So we'll see. But I think
I do think their defense gets a little bit better.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to have a top 10 defense in the country or anything
No,
like that.
no.
That's not what I'm saying. They were back half of the country in total defense. But I do think they get better, and I think their defense this year puts them in a position to win a couple of the games that they dropped last year.
they only dropped a couple games last year.
Okay, I'm aware, but the South Carolina game, I think if this year's defense was on the field, they would have won it.
I agree.
That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, I feel that. Yeah. Let's get into the schedule then.
Yeah, let's do it.
So we got Virginia, easy dub.
Yeah, they win.
Yeah, Virginia's, again, one of the worst teams in college football. Austin Peay, dub. To Florida in the swamp.
Yeah, I think they win this game.
Me too.
I think Florida's
on their way to something nice. I just don't think they're there yet.
I think Florida, yes, I tend to agree with you that I do think Florida is on the come up. But I think whenever Billy Napier took over, he just really, I think he sacrificed a season or two to rebuild it the way he wants.
Yep.
If you ask anybody, and I know you were coached by Billy Napier, but if you ask anybody who's been coached by Billy Napier, they'll die behind that guy.
Yeah.
Anybody in the media who's spoken to him, they say this guy's got fire.
Sure.
He's solid. He's going to be a good head coach. You just look back at the season last year, and you're like, well, what happened? And then you look at the win total this year for Florida, and you're like, why is this not translating? I think it's just a process that's going to take a couple of years. I think Florida is going to be really good in the near future.
Not yet.
But I think Tennessee is just better this year.
Yeah, agreed. And I think, and just to really, I guess, say screw them, I think this is a blowout too.
Yeah.
I think this is a 21-point victory from Tennessee.
21-point victory.
Yeah. I could see this being like real bad.
Yeah.
Because again, this is kind of
I could
first,
see that as well. I'm not going to predict that. I do think Tennessee's going to win, but I'm not going to.
To me, you're coming off of 2 50 to 60-point games, not margins, but scoring games, and so this is just going to be another bump, kind of thing, in my opinion.
And they get UTSA at home.
Okay, dub.
Win. So they're 4-0 going into South Carolina. They get them at home.
They dropped last year.
They lost that game last year.
Yeah. I got a win in this one. I think. I'm not gonna say it was a fluke from South Carolina, but everything randomly came together, and Spencer Rattler threw for 500 billion yards and 9 touchdowns. Like, I don't think it happens again.
Yeah.
I don't think it has a ton to do. Again, I don't think their defense got much better, so I don't think it has a ton to do with that. It was a perfect storm, and South Carolina just doesn't just put up 63.
Yeah.
Now, you and I talked about it last night. They had some things change. It wasn't a fluke. I just don't think it happens again.
Yeah, I think Tennessee wins this game as well.
Yeah.
Look, South Carolina's not putting up 63 on them this year.
No.
They're not putting up in the mid-60s. But I do think, and we'll give South Carolina its own segment, but I think South Carolina is a very sneaky good team this year.
Yeah, we do South Carolina next week.
Yeah. I think they're a very sneaky good team, and I think if their schedule or their opponent's schedule falls the right way, they could really sneak up on a couple teams and ruin some seasons.
I agree. I just don't think it's going to be Tennessee. Not this early in the season.
Yeah. Okay, so 5-0, they get Texas A&M at home.
Yeah, that's a dub. Tennessee wins, I think.
Whenever we covered Texas A&M, we both said Tennessee would win that game. And they get Alabama at home.
That's a loss.
They get Alabama in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, I was about to say and Wright did it. Yeah, I think they lose this game. We already predicted this one. I think it's gonna be not as high scoring, but I could see it being 35-42, something like that.
Yeah.
I say as high scoring and then say that just I mean, it was in the 50s last year.
I think if it's high scoring again, that plays to Tennessee's favor.
I agree.
But
Especially
again,
with this offense from Alabama.
again, you look at the rosters. While you can say the skill positions are potentially more proven, if you're a Tennessee fan, you feel really good about your running back room. You feel really good about your receiver core. Feel great about Joe Milton. You'd say, hey, we probably have the better quarterback that'll take the field that day.
Oh, for sure.
But,
Not close.
But you look at the rosters and you say, okay, but the talent's there on both sides, and Saban's coaching these guys. Like,
Yeah, the defenses won't be in the same universe.
no, Alabama's defense is going to be much better. Their receiving core, while not as proven as Tennessee's, you haven't seen the guys as much. I think they're equal.
Yeah.
And I think whoever runs out at quarterback is going to do just fine. They may not be Joe Milton,
No,
but I think they're going to be just fine to handle the talent on their offense.
At Alabama.
And
Yeah.
this is a tough game for Tennessee to win.
Yeah.
Now, if they can go put up 40, 45 points again, I know they put up 50 last year,
Right.
but if they can put up it to 40 to mid 40s,
Right.
then we're looking at this game differently, because I don't know if Alabama will do that.
No, they won't. They won't. Alabama, I don't think they have that in them for an SEC game this year.
The problem is I think Alabama's defense this year is so good that Tennessee's looking at 35 to 38 max.
Yeah, and the problem with that is I tend to, and we already predicted this game, but I tend to agree with exactly what you just said. And if that's the case, right, I don't think Bama wins this game. I think if Tennessee can score 38 points, I think they win.
That's why I'm saying max.
Yeah, I mean, in other words, this game, I don't think it's going to be a blowout at all. I think this game could
No,
go
I'm
either
with
way.
you.
Yeah.
Dude, whenever we covered Alabama, I said specifically I'm taking Alabama, but this is a coin flip game.
Yeah. So I'm taking Bama too, but it's going to be close. I agree.
It's going to be a really good game. I think
And that's easy to say because of last year, but that's because they're evenly matched football teams. You know, not at the same positions and that kind of stuff, but they're really good.
Yeah, that's the thing is I don't know if they're evenly matched football teams. I think Alabama's defense is on an entirely different realm than Tennessee's defense. And I think offensively they're very similar. Maybe not schematically, but I think given that they have I don't want to say inexperience because Tyler Buckner's experience, and if he ends up playing, he will have experience, just not cohesion with sorry, I got choked up.
Yeah.
He won't have cohesion with the offense, but I don't know. I think depending on who runs out there for Alabama as the quarterback, it's going to drastically play into the scheme that they bring to the field. Now, at SEC Media Days, Nick Saban said that, in the last several years, they've gone to a high-flying, high-powered passing offense, but he's not above going back to running it down your throat. And if that is the case, they're going to control time of possession. They're going to keep Tennessee's offense off the field, and it's going to be really hard for Tennessee
And
to win
Jason
this game.
McClellan can do it.
Yes.
So, yeah, I agree. I could see it going that way too.
Yeah.
I just think it's just like we were talking about USC and them. Like, you don't want to shoot out with Tennessee. You just don't. It doesn't matter who you are. Even Bama.
Yeah.
Obviously, we saw it last year. Bama don't want to shoot out with Tennessee. So, well, I think it's like you said, a coin flip. But yeah, I mean, we both took Bama. I'm gonna stay with Bama.
Me too.
So.
And then they go to Kentucky. I think they win that game.
Blowout. Yeah.
Blowout.
No, seriously. I don't think this game ends up close because I think they're coming off a loss, and you don't want that offense off a loss. I don't think.
Yeah.
Clemson saw it last year.
I feel you. I don't know if I'm saying blowout, but I am saying win. And I think I think 14 points or more.
Hear me out. The next one.
UConn?
Blowout.
Blowout.
Okay.
I'll give you that one.
Yep.
Then they go to Missouri.
Blowout.
Big win. Yeah, big win here. And then Georgia at home.
This is tough, man.
Is this one a blowout just the other way?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Last year was, check me on this, 27-13 Georgia.
I think that's right.
It sounds right. But that game, I assume you definitely watched that game. That game wasn't close.
Yeah.
Like Tennessee was so, I'm not even going to say out of it. Georgia had Tennessee so out of it. That offense we had seen, the number one offense in the country, I mean, they look like crap. I mean, they look really, really bad.
Yeah, it was 27-13, and
Not
Tennessee scored 3 points in both the first and second quarters, and then 7 in the fourth. So,
Yeah.
it
was bad game.
Yeah.
And Georgia looked good all game. No, I don't think it's a blowout. At least they get them at home this year. That's kind of nice. It's tough to play in Neyland Stadium, but Georgia's obviously played in some environments.
So you asked if I watched this game. Of course I did watch this game last year, but I was in a tux getting ready for a wedding because fall weddings exist and are the worst thing. Here's the thing.
We need a whole podcast on that.
I think the good Lord opposes fall weddings to the core.
Yeah.
So do with that information what you will. Don't schedule them.
like
But
that.
if you're my buddy and you got married last year during the Tennessee-Georgia game, I love you, and I was happy to stand in your wedding. Let's move forward.
Yeah, I think this game could end up being pretty close. Everything in my heart wants to take Tennessee.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to do so. I'm going to take Georgia in a decently close one.
Yeah, I think Georgia.
They're the best
It's
team in
the
college
same
football.
situation. I think their defense is going to be very similar to Alabama's, much better than Tennessee's defense. And then offensively, I know that they lose Stetson Bennett, but they replace with Carson Beck, who I think has the potential to be better. I'm not going to predict that he's going to be better and be in New York and all that like Stetson was.
He's got a higher ceiling.
He's got a much higher ceiling, in my opinion.
I agree.
He's got a cannon. They returned Brock Bowers. Got Lad McConkey coming back. I think there's just a lot of pieces to that championship, back-to-back championship team that come back. When your biggest
Be honest with me, we have Georgia next.
yes.
Okay, go ahead. It'll be a quick segment anyway because it's Georgia.
Yeah.
But
when the most dangerous piece of Tennessee's team last year was their offense, and they only put up 13 points against Georgia, and that Georgia team is largely returning, or a lot of the big pieces are returning, it's just going to be hard for me to take Tennessee in this game.
yeah, you're screwed. Yeah, and that's the whole country like, oh, they're coming back. Oh, okay.
Now, look, I think this is going to be a very big game. Like, I think people are going to get up for it. It's probably when is this? It's
Whatever,
November,
and one and undefeated. In my opinion.
November 18th. I think this is 2 top 10, potentially top 5 teams at this point. College game day is going to be there. It'll be huge.
sure.
It'll probably be a really good game. It was 27-13 last year, but it never felt like
No,
that. It felt like
it
a
felt like
beatdown
a
the whole way
beatdown,
through.
yes.
And honestly, Tennessee looked like they were going to run away early in the game. They, forced a couple turnovers. They marched down the field. They had to settle for a couple field goals, but they looked solid.
Yeah.
They looked like they were going to come together, and then Georgia just went and went.
Yep.
So I think it could play similarly, maybe be a little bit closer, feel a little bit closer at least.
I agree.
But again, it's just going to be hard for me to take Tennessee.
Me too. And then and then coming off a loss, they get Vanderbilt.
And then they beat the brakes off
Holy
Vandy.
shit. Yeah.
They finished the regular season 10-2, with losses to
Two same games, Bama and Georgia.
with losses to Bama and Georgia. They missed the SEC championship game, but depending how the chips fall around the country, they're in the conversation still.
Yeah, so Penn State gets, and yes, I meant to say that. That wasn't like a misspeak. I was going into a different segue. Penn State gets Michigan and Ohio State every year, which blows. They're a great team, top 10 team. We both agree, but that's the luck of the draw. They get them every year. Tennessee doesn't get Bama every year, but they get Georgia every year.
Tennessee gets Bama every year.
There you go. Tennessee gets Bama every year. So that it's the same exact freaking situation.
Yeah.
They're a top 10 team. I don't think anybody in the country, well, less than Penn State. More people would say they're not. But I think they're a top 10 team in the country. You agree?
Yeah.
And they're probably going to drop these 2 games and have nothing to really show for it.
Yeah.
And then go beat the crap, just like Penn State, go beat the crap out of somebody in a New Year's Six Bowl. I'd love for Penn State and Tennessee to play.
Yeah, I think that'd
That
be
would be
great.
fire,
I was going to
yeah.
say that, but I was scared you were going to say Tennessee will beat them because you, for whatever
I think
reason,
it'd be
hate
close.
Penn State.
No, yes, screw them. But that's nothing to do with it, you know?
Yeah, I think that'd be a great game. That'd be super fun to watch in the New Year's Six Bowl.
Yeah. No, yeah, for sure.
Okay, and then Georgia.
They're good at football.
Yeah, the sport.
To me, man, you're talking about a team that went undefeated in the regular season 2 years ago, dropped the conference championship to Alabama. I mean, that's, pretty decently normal. And then beat them. They avenged their loss.
Mm-hmm.
And then go undefeated and just beat the crap out of everybody except for Missouri. But we're not talking about that. And Ohio State. But, man, they're really, really good. Again, y'all heard it a million times. I haven't repeating. So that's kind of a little spoiler alert.
Yeah, I gave my piece on Carson Beck when we broke down the Tennessee-Georgia game.
Yeah.
I
think he's legit. I think he has a higher ceiling. Again, let me preface this with saying that the spring game obviously doesn't matter, but watching him go through progressions and watching some of the balls he threw, like I think he's got a shot to be real legit talent wise.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So again, even you look at Brock Bauer. You look at Carson Beck. All of those things hold that I said in the Tennessee segment.
Yeah.
But you look at the receiver room, you get Lad McConkey back. You get Ra Thomas, Dominic Lovett. You go to tight end, you have Brock Bowers. Like, Kendall Milton's still there at running back. So
I'd be pretty decent in that freaking under center.
yeah,
With those guys, I mean, my God.
Yeah, they're solid. On defense, they're going to be top 5 defense in the country again. There might not be a game they play this year in the regular season where they're not the favorite.
Oh, there definitely will not be a game this year.
Yeah.
Where they're not. What are you even referencing?
It would have to be Tennessee is what I'm saying. And I don't think they'll be the favorite. I'm sorry, I don't think Tennessee will be the favorite.
Yeah, I don't know that there's a game on their schedule they won't be a 10-plus point favorite.
I don't know if they'll be a 10-plus point favorite.
They were a 10-plus point favorite over Tennessee this year. Last year. Yeah.
Well, we'll see. We'll see when all that comes out. But
Yeah. I mean, they could drop this UT Martin game.
No.
Having them dropping that, all right, UT Martin at home.
Win. Let's UT
Ball
Martin and
State.
Ball State 2 wins. They start out 2-0.
South Carolina.
Yeah. We just talked about South Carolina.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. We haven't broken down this game. We talked about South Carolina a
We
little bit
did,
when we were talking about Tennessee. This is early in the season. Again, I think South Carolina is a sneaky team. They're not beating Georgia.
No.
But I'm excited to talk about South Carolina. I was going to talk about South Carolina, but it's the Georgia segment.
Yeah, and blowout too. Yeah.
It's a
blowout
big win for Georgia.
Yeah. UAB.
UAB at home win.
Yeah, at Auburn.
Auburn's another team that I think is interesting. Georgia wins this game. Stop freaking out over there.
No, I forgot. Yeah.
Georgia wins this game, but Auburn's another sneaky team with. Why are you doing that?
No, I think they are a favorite to score 7. I think they're a sneaky 14-point threat. Late score, sneaky 14-point threat.
Well, I think,
but they're also sneaky to give up 56.
I think that is a crazy take.
Oh, dude, Auburn. But come on, bro. I mean, how do you have this game going? Obviously, you have Georgia winning.
I have Georgia winning, probably about 21 to 24 points. I think it's a blowout. I'm not giving them 56-7.
I said 14. I think they're sneaky to score 14.
Okay, I'm not giving them 56 to 14.
Okay.
I think when you look at Auburn, I think nationally and apparently even half this purple couch thinks it, but you look at
more. I cover a little bit more ground than you. Sadly.
But you look at Auburn and everybody's like, they were in shambles last year. They lost a quarterback. They brought in Peyton Thorne from Michigan State.
Yeah.
They have a first-year head coach. Well, also that first-year head coach is Hugh Freeze, who was really good at Ole Miss. He was good at Liberty. He's had some personal issues. He wasn't fired from Ole Miss for football reasons.
Right.
Let's be very clear on that. And to hire a guy for Auburn to go out and hire a guy like Hugh Freeze, it's because he's a damn good football coach.
Yeah, but you got to look at the same time. He is a first-year football coach.
I'm with you. It's his first year in this program. But the point is, and like I said, I'm taking Georgia to win by 21, 24, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
But looking at Auburn, they're sneaky because they have a solid coach. They hit the transfer portal hard.
Very hard.
And I think there's a couple games that they're going to be dogs in this year that they could win. That's all I'm getting at. They're a sneaky team that could give people a better game than they're expecting.
I would agree.
But I still like Georgia to win by somewhere in the mid-20s.
I agree with that as well. Does this team, I'm going to pause here for a second. Does this Georgia team beat last year's Georgia team?
I don't know. I think it's tricky.
I think it's tricky too. I think it does, and I'll tell you why. There's a lot of teams in college football this year, oddly enough, who have like a majority coming back. Like you look at Michigan with these stars, they're all coming back. You look at Georgia, like McConkey and like those guys all coming back. Obviously Stetson couldn't. I think this team makes a real good case for beating last year's Georgia team, and that's bad for college football.
It's bad for the rest of the field.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you have them blowing Auburn out.
Yeah.
Okay, Kentucky at home.
Yeah. They beat Kentucky handily.
Bad. Real bad. Well, they go to Vanderbilt.
They beat Vanderbilt really bad.
Yep.
And then they get Florida and Jacksonville.
I think they lose that one. I think Florida loses that one.
Yeah.
I think Georgia wins that one.
I think Georgia wins that one as well. I'm not sold on Graham Mertz. I think given Florida's recruiting very well right now, but given the two teams that I've seen Billy Napier coach at Florida, or the one team I've seen, but looking at this second team, show me the rosters, and I'm going to take the one with Anthony Richardson at quarterback over Graham Mertz.
I agree.
I don't. That doesn't mean I think they'll be a 5-6 win team and miss a bowl game, but I don't feel as good about Florida as I did last year, and
Right.
it's another year into the system, so it's
Right.
tricky. I'm gonna take Georgia to win big.
Me too.
Missouri's a win.
Yeah.
And I think this is just a vengeance game. I know Georgia won last year, but
But
it's going to be a y'all didn't deserve to be in this game.
Right.
We're going to go ahead and put it on y'all today.
Yes.
And I think they're going to win that game by 30 some odd points.
Yeah, I agree. That's how I think it is with Auburn too, but that's okay. Ole Miss at home.
Ole Miss is one of those teams that I think is really, really good. You're talking about guys like Quinshon Judkins. I'm going to take Georgia to win before you start giving me the death stare. Good
It's just
God.
whatever sometimes you preface it, oh, Georgia's going to win. But sometimes you're like, Ole Miss is one of those teams. I'm like, one of those teams to what?
Well, I think this is a game. If you would just let me give my
Go ahead.
take.
I'm good. No, you stop talking. I was looking at you talking. I'm listening.
I think this is one of those games that Georgia is going to win, but it's going to be a good game well into the second half. I think this game is going to be up in the air well into the third quarter, and then they're gonna score late or get a stop, and they're gonna win by 2 possessions.
Yeah.
But I look at this team and I look at that quarterback room, whoever ends up starting, whether it's Spencer Sanders or Jackson Dart, Walker Howard. I don't think it's gonna be Walker Howard, but
It's Jackson Dart, in my opinion.
I think it's Jackson Dart too. Yeah. I agree. But you look at Quinshon Judkins and you look at the receivers they have over there. I'm like, okay, well, this is a team that I don't think is in the conversation to win the SEC West. I don't think they're in the conversation for the SEC. But you put them in a different conference, and they probably have top 2 odds to win the conference.
Yeah.
So this is a really good team who just isn't quite there in Tier A of the SEC yet.
Right.
So I think this is one of those games that could be close well into the second half.
I don't. But I don't think it's a blowout, but I don't think like that.
So what do you think?
No, I think they just keep it out of arm's length the whole game.
No, so you think
they
it's
get up early and
you think it's a 2-possession game all the way through?
yes,
Okay.
like a 21-7 that stays like that, and just they beat them by 14 to 17 points.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm not too far off. I think it's closer 10 to 14, still 2 possessions.
I just don't think there's ever like a, oh my God, Ole Miss could really win this game kind of thing.
I think there is.
I got you.
I think there is. And I don't think Ole Miss does win it, but I think there's that thought. And
Yeah.
I think this is one of those games where Samford's going to be rocking. It's going to be loud. It's going to be one of the louder games there late into the second half. So I think that's going to be a good one and a game to keep your eye on.
We already predicted the Tennessee game. I got Georgia winning a decently close one.
I do too. I know it's in the same podcast. If you're checking this out on the Clips account and you're a Georgia fan, just go watch the Tennessee segment and skip right to it. We broke down this game pretty extensively.
Yeah.
But we both have Georgia winning.
Yeah.
And then game 12 at Georgia Tech.
Dub.
Yeah, win. Big win.
Yeah. And then we have to talk about futures now. I think they either get LSU or Alabama. In my opinion, it's LSU in the championship, SEC championship again. I have them beating LSU in the championship, going to the playoffs, possibly with a playoff berth from LSU as well. But we'll probably get into that, and kind of already have. And then again, I do have them three-peating. I don't know who they're touching there, but I do have them three-peating. Mm-hmm. So
12-0 regular season, SEC champs in your opinion. Do they put anybody in New York?
No, I don't think so. I mean, this is gonna sound stupid as crap, but I think there's a shot Brock Bowers could go if he does some crazy stuff. If they're 12-0, 13-0, and then go to the playoffs, yes.
Tight end in the Heisman
if he does something crazy, because you got to think, dude, somebody like that, like he's probably, and this is a bold take for sure, but I'm not alone in this take. He's probably the best college tight end ever. So you have somebody like, if a tight end was ever going to go, it would be Brock Bowers. He's got so much experience. If he ends up going for, 1,400 yards as a tight end, he'll probably go.
I don't think that's a horrible explanation of how you laid that out, but I think it was such a big deal for Devontae Smith to win the Heisman as a receiver.
I don't think he wins it.
I don't think you're going to see it as a tight end.
I don't think he wins it, just to be clear. But no, if it's not something like that, no, I don't think anybody goes.
Yeah, I'm with you. All right, so Georgia 12-0, SEC champions in the college football playoff. Dude, these kill me.
It's at the same time every time. We're like wrapping up, and I'm like, all right, Joe, talk a little faster.
The leaf blowers. Love the landscape
he
crew.
hit the door with the leaf blower. He hit the door.
That was tough.
Love the landscape crew. They're the best, but
I love how he
kills me at this time. Kills me at this
He has
time.
to show that love.
For the
like,
landscapers
love
watching,
you guys, you guys are
I
great.
got to shout out the landscape crew. Like, wow.
Kills me.
We can't get them to, I mean.
But that's all we got. We talked about Notre Dame.
Georgia three-peating?
I don't have Georgia three-peating.
Oh, my God. Who's going to beat them? He's like, Penn State.
Could be Penn State.
He's like, honestly, it could be Notre Dame.
No,
Yeah,
I think once you get into the playoffs, and I don't know, I haven't picked a national champion. I haven't picked it.
We're talking about the one that won it back-to-back. Who's going to stop them?
I get it, but I'm not picking a national champion until right before the season starts. I think we're still a month out or so. What? Why are you doing this?
Is that lame?
What?
We're talking about the back-to-back champion. I have them going back-to-back.
We haven't even broke down
you
all
don't?
the teams.
You're going to tell me off camera?
No, but I'm gonna continue to break down teams as we get closer to the season, and before the season, I'll make a better. I'll make a
get a full analysis. Of all
I
of
understand. Yeah, my informed decision is coming off of. I think they're the third most talented team behind Alabama and A&M.
Yes.
I think they're. I'm going to say
No.
tied.
They're the second most talented.
In front of A&M.
Yeah.
I think they're tied for the best coach team, and I just think they're more experienced than Bama as far as winning wise. That's why I have them three-peating.
Mm-hmm.
Could that change? Yeah. If Michigan's freaking killing everybody, they murk Ohio State. I think that could change. But for now, I have Georgia, and you have.
I'm not going to pick yet.
That's lame.
But I love Georgia to make the college football playoff. I think that is I think that's easy money.
That's a lock.
I genuinely think that's easy money. The problem is once you get into the college football playoff, you're looking at the four best teams in the country. And
Sometimes.
I picked Georgia to win the national championship last year, but they almost lost the semifinals to Ohio State. And that was a great game. I think things like that just happen in the playoffs.
They also won the national championship last year.
They did.
Yeah.
They did. But the problem is there's teams like that. There's the Ohio States, Michigans, USCs. There's teams like potentially Oregon. Alabama. We just talked about Tennessee. There's
I'm
teams
not asking
that
you to bet money on it, though.
I'm aware.
Who is your favorite right now to win? I understand you haven't seen anybody play.
Not making a decision until right before the season.
It's not a decision to be made. It is literally we just predicted 36 games.
Regular season games, yeah.
Okay. Somebody beating another team. You had nobody beating Georgia.
I'm not doing it.
So if Michigan, okay, we'll do this. If Michigan was on Georgia's regular season schedule, who would win that game?
Don't know. I'm not even doing it because they're not on there.
All right. Well, anything?
Why are you give it up, bro?
I just want to know who you think's going to win.
Yeah, and I'll tell you right before the season starts.
Okay.
Thank
I'll
y'all for
pick
watching the
Georgia
10-second
right before the
runoff.
season. That's what it'll be.
We went through all that, and he's still going to pick Georgia at the end
Right.
of it.
Look, please make sure to like, comment, subscribe. We have a Clips account. Go watch the segments from each individual team we talked about. We are here at Culture Media. We have lots of different shows that you can go check out. We have our owner, Anthony Ronaldo, has the Up and In show. We're bringing on a couple other ones with guys like Mikey Matuk and Jared Mitchell. Two girls, Taryn Cloth and Kristen Nuss, are making a push towards the Summer Olympics in 2024. We're hosting their show, so lots of stuff for y'all to check out. Go do that. Thanks.